units, final approach. 60 seconds to insertion.
Alpha team on target. Bravo team in position. Federal agent, get on the ground now!
Get me everything. Financials, offshore accounts, all of it.
Operation complete. All suspects in custody.
Ilhan Omar went from broke to a $30 million fortune in just 1 year on a congressional salary of $174,000. Now, whistleblowers are coming forward with explosive evidence connecting her wealth surge to the massive Somali fraud ring that just got busted in her own district. What they're revealing will shock you. Now, this isn't just another political scandal. This is systematic theft from American taxpayers during a national emergency. While hardworking Americans struggled through COVID lockdowns, Omar allegedly orchestrated a scheme that funneled hundreds of millions in relief funds through fake daycare centers and restaurants. Her husband's company went from zero value to $25 million, $30 million overnight. She's flaunting designer clothes while families lost their businesses. If Congress members can brazenly steal relief money meant for struggling children and families, what's next? This corruption threatens the foundation of our republic and proves the swamp will exploit any crisis for personal gain. Speaking of threats to America's security and independence, there's something every patriot needs to know about our nation's energy vulnerability. Some breaking news from January 5th of 2026. It went completely under the radar. The U.S. Department of Energy announced $2.7 billion in contracts to restore domestic uranium enrichment. Now, this is not just government spending. It's a declaration of intent. You see, America needs uranium. It needs domestic uranium, and it needs it now. The U.S. consumes, get this, over 50 million pounds of uranium annually, but we only produce 5% domestically. That's a national security crisis. While corrupt politicians like Omar allegedly steal taxpayer money, smart Americans are investing in America's energy independence through companies like Atomic Minerals. They're developing critical uranium projects right now, right here on American soil. Just like we're exposing political corruption, we need to expose our dangerous dependence on foreign uranium. Atomic Minerals is positioning itself at the center of America's uranium renaissance. When you invest in domestic uranium, you're not just building wealth, you're building American energy security. Get the full details from the exclusive briefing that's been prepared for you on how to invest in America's uranium future. It is linked down below. Now back to Omar's corruption scandal. Yes, this is what makes it even more outrageous. Investigators are now tracking the fraud web to other Minnesota Democrats. Restaurant owners who hosted Omar's campaign events have been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds. The rats are scattering, and they're all begging reporters to hear their stories before Omar throws them all under the bus. Bill Mitchell posted this: Ilhan Omar's world is crumbling fast. Whistleblowers spilling on massive campaign cash to her husband's firm and huge COVID fraud in Minneapolis Somali networks. She knew, she benefited, she covered for them. Breaking video exposing the corruption web. Watch this.
Now investigators are tracking the web of fraud to other Minnesota Democrats, such as Congresswoman Ilhan Omar. Many of the suspects linked to the scheme live in her district, including a restaurant owner who hosted events for her. He has since been convicted of stealing $12 million in COVID funds.
Millions of dollars in COVID funds just disappearing. This initial bombshell sets up the framework. Now we need to see what specific evidence is driving these claims. Don Keith writes, looks like the Queen Somalian rat is cooked. Reports say that Ilhan Omar's campaign funneled a mountain of money to her husband and his firm, while Somali-linked networks in Minneapolis conducted one of the biggest pandemic fraud schemes ever and stole millions. I think this is the same. Yeah, this is the same.
Now investigate.
So we've heard the accusations, but End Wokeness is about to take us back where the pattern allegedly started years ago. September of 2020, undercover recordings by Project Veritas implicate Representative Omar in a Somali cash for vote scheme in Minneapolis. Okay, this is 2020, September. Project Veritas, undercover recordings. Buckle up.
Project Veritas has received an explosive piece of tape. The tape you're about to see shows a man buying a registration form for an absentee ballot from a voter, giving him, quote, pocket money, unquote, of $200 and expecting to collect his ballot when the voter receives it.
$800 for his ballot on another.
But that's illegal. Why?
We don't care illegal. أنا العائل
How much are you?
good one.
Investigation exposed a pay-to-play scheme in Minnesota.
She's the one who came up with all this.
So she did it. She
Yeah.
started this whole thing with
Yeah.
the pay to vote.
Yeah.
So the people that work for Ilhan are actually counting the ballots, counting the vote.
And they become a manager in the prison too.
If you don't have absentee ballot, the ballot harvester vote for you in the polling booth.
They walk with you to the booth, and then they vote. Oh, vote this guy, vote this guy, vote this guy. Vote even if you speak English.
Osam al-Danik admits paying al-Shabaab.
عندنا الشباب إيسيارين. الشباب من كل إجابة.
So you see how the money tracks all the way to Al-Qaeda linked groups? The historical context is crucial here. Now we're going to find out how Omar finally facing public confrontation. You're the one that should be deported, they say. Omar faces the public after weeks of avoiding culpability in the Minnesota corruption scandal, costing the USA tens of billions and profiting $30 million personally. Remember this moment?
Secretary Kristi Noem must resign or face impeachment. I don't know.
Oh my God, he's sprayed something on her.
And of course,
I need a napkin to know nothing.
And of course, her first public appearance, what happens? She comes out, and there's a clearly staged event that is meant to drum up sympathy for her. But of course, if you, and I've brought this up before, if a congresswoman or whatever is publicly assaulted with a chemical spray, why wasn't she rushed to the hospital? Right? You'd think that she'd be rushed immediately to find out what happened. But of course, we find out later that this person has deep ties to Ilhan Omar and the left. So it's all a scam. It's all stage. Freemason writes, Omar is a scammer from Somalia. She's an anti-American turd. Comment, like, and share. Let's check out this guy.
Enter Congress with a negative net worth in 2019 and shoot up to a $30 million net worth just in 6 years. Let's ask Ilhan Omar. I expose how corrupt politicians are, so make sure you follow me. In 2019, Ilhan Omar was elected into Congress. She started her first year, and her financial disclosure for that year was a negative net worth. When this was first reported, she absolutely denied the fact that she's a millionaire. But then a couple months later, she filed her financial disclosure. We saw a 3,500 increase in net worth compared to the previous year. Now, members of the U.S. House of Representatives earn about an annual salary of $174,000. Even if she saved every penny from her salary from the last 6 years, it wouldn't be anywhere close to $30 million. So what did suddenly happen? Oh, let's look at her husband's businesses, Tim Minette. Ilhan and her husband own two businesses, one of them being a winery and the other one being a venture capital firm. 2023, the value of the winery was roughly anywhere between $15,000 to $50,000. And just a year later, that same winery is now valued at anywhere between $1 million to $5 million. If you think that's suspicious, wait till you see this venture capital business. In 2023, the company had less than $1,000 in assets. Well, a year later, this venture capital that anyone can invest into is now valued at $5 million to $25 million. And what's even crazier is that the company claims to have $60 billion in assets under management. So Ilhan, please tell us, how does this happen? Is this just by luck, or is somebody or a foreign country perhaps funding this?
Yeah. I think that we're going to find out some answers real soon, though. The personal attacks are escalating, but Rick Heidner, who's running for governor in Illinois, posted this. Breaking: Tim Walz, Ilhan Omar, and Keith Ellison now directly linked to the Somali fraud ring. Every fraudster in government must be held accountable. There will be zero tolerance for this kind of corruption under my watch in Illinois. It ends now.
Omar, Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison. We see a web of connections between them and those directly involved in the fraud. For example, Ilhan Omar, alleged enabling introducing the 2020 Meals Act, which was ultimately subject to fraud, held a campaign victory party at the Safari restaurant. That's where one of the men who run that restaurant has associations to the convicted individuals. And then there's Tim Walz. House Oversight Investigation role in his role as governor, or Keith Ellison, the Attorney General. His job is to enforce the law in Minnesota, but instead he's getting donations after meeting with the Feeding Our Future representatives. The Feeding Our Future, the biggest known yet part of this entire theft ring.
Theft ring. That's what it was. Rick Heidner posting. He's running for governor. Check him out. We need some strong leadership in Illinois. Make sure this stuff doesn't spread. But, of course, I'm sure it's deeply rooted corruption going on in Illinois. Now we're seeing the scope widen dramatically. This isn't about just one congresswoman. It's about the entire network. Whistleblowers confirm Ilhan Omar's campaign funneled a massive amount of money to her husband's firm. Multiple sources confirming the same story. The massive Somali fraud ring is in Omar's district. Omar mysteriously went from negative net worth to tens of millions in a year's time. But I'm sure it's all a coincidence, right?
Ilhan Omar make $30 million in 1 year when her congressional salary is $174,000. This seems very likely connected to the massive Somali fraud ring that was just exposed in her district in Minnesota. It turns out her husband, Tim Minette, has a company called Rose Lake Capital, a venture capital management firm. Its reported value in 2023 was $0. Ilhan Omar's net worth was actually in the negative, and somehow the reported value of that firm has now gone to between $5 and $25 million. And she has the pricey fashion items to show for it now. She also has multiple connections with people tied to this massive Somali fraud ring, including a video of her dishing out food at a restaurant that's at the heart of the scandal. Because, oh yes, it wasn't only learning centers being used to pocket money.
Quality Learning Center is a daycare, yet they spelled learning wrong.
There were also restaurants claiming to serve millions of meals to children without any verification. I would also just like to add, as a side note, that Ilhan Omar is currently on her third husband, whom she had an affair with when he was working on her campaign, and she was paying his consulting firm millions of dollars while cheating on her second husband. Not the brother. That was the first one. This was the second one. But, you know, I guess once a cheater, always a cheater.
Oh, yeah, baby. Let's go. Let's go. Financial evidence is damning. Doge Queen shows us the investigation is gaining momentum with more whistleblowers coming forward. Omar is done. Wake me up, though, when a politician is arrested. A politician who came from less than nothing, amassing a $30 million net worth in a year, is not the American dream. That's corruption, graft, and criminality. This call for criminal prosecution leads to Mayor Seeley's proposal for how to actually investigate this systematically. He says Matt Gaetz should be appointed as special counsel to investigate not just Ilhan Omar, but the corruption of all members of Congress. Matt Gaetz as a special counsel is one approach, but Betsy Ross represents the public anger demanding immediate consequences. Deporting Ilhan Omar would be too good for her. She deserves to spend the next 50 years in jail for theft, fraud, and corruption. So Matt Gaetz should be appointed as special counsel to investigate not just Omar, but yes, every corrupt member of Congress. Politicians spell learning wrong on their fake daycare centers while stealing millions. You know the swamp has hit rock bottom. Omar's days are just numbered. And this is exactly why Americans voted for Trump, to drain the swamp, to hold these corrupt politicians accountable. Omar allegedly went from negative net worth to $30 million by exploiting a pandemic while children suffered. She deserves prison and not deportation, and the evidence is only mounting. The whistleblowers are talking. Justice is coming. It's time to clean house in Congress and show these corrupt politicians that stealing from American taxpayers has consequences. Do you think Ilhan Omar should face criminal charges for this alleged corruption scheme? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to check out the Next News merch shop to show your support for real journalism that exposes the truth that the mainstream media just won't touch.
The system controls information. Information control is power. I want you to see this. Truth only survives together. They don't want this shared. Share this now.